In my years of producing, there's one problem that every producer faces that's holding their career back. It's not your gear, it's not your mixing, and it's not even your sound selection. The mistake is thinking that good beats sell themselves, and they don't. The thing is that beats don't move through quality alone, they move through trust and they move through timing. I play songs by artists like Gunna, Swae, Quavo, and none of those songs landed because they stumbled across some random BeatStars link online. My first major placements didn't come from just random loops floating around online. They came from building strategic relationships with people and getting my actual beats out to connections I knew were good because I knew my relationships was good. I built trust, stayed consistent, and followed up at the right times to make sure my beats was still getting cut in the mix. Even look at Southside, he didn't blow up just off a random beat upload, you know, he built relationships with Waka and Gucci, and that ended up opening more doors for 808 Mafia down the line. Even look at Wheezy, before the Thug and the Wheezy, you know, everything that's going on with Thug, they built such a strong relationship. They worked together so much that they built a sound, and that sound kind of took over for a decent amount of time. And not to knock nobody, because Wheezy's still doing his thing, you know, but my story is relatively the same in that way. Of course, there's gonna be some songs that come in, especially when you're sending loops that you don't necessarily expect, and sometimes they can even seem random. But at times when I've landed some of my largest placements by myself, when I was the one that sent the beat through that ended up getting it placed, that play happened because I already had a preemptive relationship with whoever it is that I sent that beat to. So even if it is the artist, I was already working on building that relationship before they cut that beat. So, you know, I could have been sending to them for 2 years before that, and they never even hit me back one time before. And the thing is that these artists have so much access to beats, there's always gonna be people flooding their phone, there's always gonna be people in their email. So as long as you're showing that you're putting in that consistent effort and they start seeing your name popping up, however long it takes for them to start recognizing you, that relationship is essentially inevitable as long as your beats ain't complete trash. But even back to the first beats that I placed, it happened because of discipline and a system. It wasn't just me making beats and maybe sending out a few packs to some random people that I think maybe could have potentially had a connection to some artists. Everything was intentional and thought out. And here's the thing that really hurts, is that most producers spend 99% of their time making beats and only 1% of the time networking. But the producers that are really winning out here flip that. They spend a lot more of the time on networking and less time on making beats because they realize that if they don't have the proper connections and they're not doing more than the average producer to be able to get their beats out to anywhere, it doesn't matter how many beats they're making to begin with. Again, back to the connections. Metro Boomin was already making beats in high school, but what set him apart at that time is that he drove 8 hours to the studio to go meet up with OJ the Juiceman, and then he ended up getting more sessions at ATL because of that. And again, not to knock anybody, because the guys at the top are still making hard beats, but they're using more of their energy elsewhere that actually moves and pushes their beats forward. This is really why it can take a long time to build yourself as a producer. You gotta make sure that your music ain't just good enough, even though you'd prefer it to be unique and better than the average producer. But even if you're just average, your beats can get used, but that's not enough, because then you gotta figure out how the fuck you gonna get them to anybody, you know what I'm saying? So if you're wondering why it feels like your beats are getting sent into the void and nobody's even paying attention to them, it could just be because you don't have that trust built up yet. And that might be what you have to work on, not your mixes or your loop selection or whatever the fuck you might be stressing about. But you know, these are all the same problems that I went through when I was trying to get everything figured out. And that's why I built my Pipeline program, which is an exclusive group of producers that I personally work with to actually move their beats forward, get them heard by the right people, and not just let them rot in the inbox. If you're interested in that, I'll leave more details at the top of the caption below. But yeah, again, appreciate you tapping in like always. I'm out.